If you can change just 3 sentences you say after custody exchanges, you can rebuild your child's trust without interrogating them, without begging them to open up, and without accidentally strengthening the loyalty bind. Let me say that again, because I know how desperate this can feel. 3 sentences. Because what looks like my child doesn't trust me is often not a relationship problem. It's a nervous system survival strategy. And yes, those 3 sentences, I'll give them to you in just a few minutes. Now, if you're the safe parent, if you're the parent who's trying to create stability, this isn't where it gets so confusing. You're doing the bedtime routines. You're trying to keep life normal. You're watching your tone. You're being the bigger person. And then your child comes back from the other house and they're different. They're cold, they're edgy, they shut down, or they hit you with a phrase that doesn't even sound like mom says you're controlling, dad says you're lying, or the one that makes your whole body hot, I don't want to be here. And in that moment, the safe parent instincts kick in. You want to fix it. You want to clarify. You want to pull the truth out before it disappears. And you can feel the panic underneath it. What if I'm losing them? Take a breath. Here's the path that we are going to take together. First, I'm going to show you why this isn't rejection, it's survival. Then I'll name the toxic co-parenting patterns that quietly break trust. Then I'll tell you the biggest mistakes safe parents make without realizing it. And at the end, I'll give you the exact phrases and routines that rebuild trust over time for kids, as young as 3 and as old as 12. By the end of this, you're going to understand why a child's mistrust in toxic co-parenting dynamics is often about survival, not rejection. You'll be able to spot the quiet patterns: gaslighting, loyalty binds, emotional pressure, parental alienation behaviors that teach a child to stay guarded even with the safest parent. And you'll know exactly what to do in those first minutes after an exchange so you stop accidentally adding pressure and you start rebuilding trust without starting a war. And if you're new here, I'm Dr. Naaila. I'm a doctor of child development, and I'm also a bonus parent. So I've seen this through the professional lens, and I've also witnessed the emotional reality of it up close. I've supported so many parents who came to me saying, my child is pulling away from me and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And what we usually find is this: the child isn't rejecting them. The child is adapting to emotional danger. Once we shift the safe parent from proving to protecting nervous system safety, trust starts to come back slowly, steadily, and for real. And if you're sitting here thinking, okay, I need a plan for my specific child, my specific ex, my specific pattern, you don't have to do this on your own. You can book a strategy session with me. Just so we're clear, this isn't one-on-one therapy. It's a strategy and fit session to see what support and next step makes the most sense for your situation. We'll map what your child is showing you, identify the patterns that you're dealing with from the emotionally unsafe parent, and get clear on why what you have been doing hasn't worked, so you can decide what kind of support will actually protect your child moving forward. If that would feel supportive, the link is there for you in the description. Now, let's talk about why your child's lack of trust is so often about survival, not rejection. Here's the reframe I want you to hold in your hands today. Your child's trust is not a logical decision. Trust is a nervous system process, especially under 12. Your child is not sitting there doing the analysis like, which parent is more correct? They're sensing, where is it safe for me to relax? Where do I need to perform? Where do I need to monitor myself? Where do I need to protect someone's feelings? And when a child is co-parenting, because yes, a lot of kids in high conflict dynamics end up co-parenting the adults, they learn very quickly that love can come with conditions, that closeness can come with consequences, that honesty can create explosion. So what do? They adapt. And one of the most heartbreaking adaptations is this: they show their most defended, least vulnerable self to the safe parent, because the safe parent is the only place they can practice control. Let me say that again. Sometimes a child is guarded with you because you are safe enough that they don't have to fawn over you. They don't have to manage you. They don't have to soothe you. So their nervous system finally has permission to let the stress come out sideways, through irritability, through shutdown, through I don't care, through testing you. And if you've ever thought, why do I get the worst version of them? it's not because you deserve the worst version of them. It's because you can hold it. Now, this is also where alienation dynamics can get confusing because, yes, sometimes a child is repeating beliefs that were planted there. And yes, sometimes the other parent is actively undermining your relationship. But even then, your child's behavior still has a survival logic. Because if the emotionally unsafe parent is pressuring the child subtly or overtly, the child learns that showing closeness to you may bring backlash later. So they create distance, not because they don't love you, but because love feels like a liability. I know this might sound small, but it's a game changer. Your job is not to convince your child to trust you. Your job is to become the place where their body remembers what trust feels like. And that starts with lowering the pressure, especially right after exchanges. So if your child is 3 to 6 and they come home prickly or shut down, try this. Hey, love, I'm so happy you're home. You don't have to talk about anything right now. Your job is just to be a kid. I've got you. And then stop talking. Let the room be quiet. Let them play. Let them snack. Let their nervous system land. And if your child is 10 to 12 and they're cold or sarcastic, you might try this. Hey, I'm glad you're back. I'm not going to grill you. If there's anything you want me to know, I'm here. And if not, we can just ease into the evening. That line, I'm not going to grill you, really matters because so many kids come home expecting an interrogation. And even when you think that you're just checking in, they do feel the pressure. I want to give you a real life example because I want you to feel how this actually plays out. I worked with a mom whose kids came home and basically disappeared. Not in a dramatic way, in that quiet, heartbreaking way. They'd walk in and go straight to their rooms or straight to their toys. And it was like a wall came down. If she asked, how was it? They'd give one-word answers. If she asked anything, even slightly specific, did you go anywhere? Who was there? They'd either deflect, change the subject fast, or you could literally see their eyes flicker like, I'm not supposed to say. And the mom's fear was exactly what a lot of you are thinking right now. She said, Dr. Naaila, I think they're scared that if they tell me anything, word is going to get back to their dad. And she was probably right. But here's what was so important. Her next move was the part that kept accidentally reinforcing the shutdown because she was so stressed. And honestly, like who wouldn't be? Her energy at pickup was tight, guarded, watching everything, bracing for impact. Even when she tried to sound calm, her nervous system was broadcasting, something is wrong. I need information. And the kids felt that. So we didn't start by telling her, you need better questions. We actually did the opposite. We shifted the receiving energy. We worked on her becoming lighter when they walked through the door. Not fake happy, not performative, just less on guard, more spacious, more like, you're home, I've got you. You don't have a job here. And here's the key part. I want you to really hear this. She did not fix this by promising, I won't tell dad, or making a big speech about secrecy, because that still puts the child in the middle. That still makes the child manage information. Instead, she let go of the stress and the intensity that she was carrying into the reunion. She stopped trying to extract the weekend from them. She made the first hour about landing. Snack, music, a show, a simple choice. Do you want to play or do you just want to chill? And slowly, so quietly that she almost missed it, the kids started sharing again. Not because they were convinced logically, not because she had proved anything to them, because their nervous system felt, oh, I'm not being scanned. I'm not being evaluated. I'm not being recruited to one parent. And when a child feels that, they come back to you. And that's the part that I don't want you to miss. And I just want to have a lot of empathy here because not asking questions can feel impossible, especially when you're worried, especially when you feel like you're dealing with narcissism, gaslighting, or parental alienation. Your brain is screaming, I need to know what happened. So if you've been interrogating a little, if you've been urgent, if you've been trying to clean things up, I'm not here to shame you. It makes sense. But I want to give you a practical signal to watch for, because this was the signal for us in our home. And it's a signal for many of my clients too. When you start asking questions and your child deflects, when they change the topic, when they suddenly get very interested in a toy, when they run off to play instead of leaning into connection, that is information. That is your child's nervous system saying, this feels like pressure. Not, I don't love you. Not, I don't trust you forever. Just too much, too fast, not safe right now. And if you can catch that moment right there and soften, if you can say to yourself, okay, I'm doing the thing, I'm scanning, I'm extracting, I'm trying to fix, that's your cue to pivot, to go lighter, to go slower, to stop asking and start anchoring safety. Because the fastest way to become the parent your child can tell the truth to is to stop making the truth feel like a job for them. And if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, but I don't know how to do this consistently, especially when I'm triggered, that's exactly where support can make this easier. And by the way, while we're here, I want to make one thing really clear, because I never want you booking a strategy session thinking that it's something that it's not. This isn't a one-on-one therapy session, and it's not a tell me your story for 60 minutes and I'll hold space type of call. A strategy session is exactly what it sounds like. It's a clarity and fit call where we look at what's happening with your child, what dynamic you're dealing with, and what you've tried so far, so we can make a grounded decision on your next step. And if it looks like my support is the right fit, what I offer is a step-by-step process. It's a program that walks you through the exact foundation and tools that you need for this specific co-parenting dynamic. That includes very specific parenting tools, what to say, what not to say, what to do after exchanges, how to respond to your child when they repeat adult phrases, and it also includes energy-based practices, because your nervous system and your home environment matter more than most people realize. The goal is to help you respond in a way that brings your child closer, not farther, especially if your child is becoming more distant or confused, more anxious, shutting down, acting out, or starting to take sides with the other parent. And a big part of this work is also teaching your child how to recognize and resist manipulation without ever needing to call out the toxic parent or put the child in the middle. We strengthen your bond, rebuild emotional safety, and help you create a stable, thriving home environment. And it all starts with you staying grounded and in control, so you can respond effectively, even when the dynamic is designed to hook you. So if you're listening and you're thinking, okay, I don't want therapy, I want a plan, I want a process, I want to stop guessing, then you're welcome to book a strategy session and we'll see together whether this is the right fit for you. Okay, now let's talk about what toxic co-parenting is doing to trust behind the scenes. Toxic co-parenting isn't just drama. It's not just two people who can't get along. In high conflict or narcissistic dynamics, what's happening is often emotional abuse through the system. And children feel it like emotional physics, like gravity. They learn, if I say the wrong thing, something bad happens. Even if nobody yells, even if nobody hits, even if it's all smiles on the outside. This is where gaslighting and loyalty binds do their damage. A loyalty bind is when a child feels like loving one parent is a betrayal to the other. And manipulative adults create this bind in a lot of ways. Sometimes it's obvious. If you love me, you wouldn't want to go there. Sometimes it's subtle. I'm just so sad when you leave. I don't know what I'm going to do without you. Sometimes it's performed as concern. I just worry about you when you're at dad's house. Are you sure you're okay there? And then the child becomes the emotional caretaker, or the spy, or the judge, or the messenger. And none of those roles are safe for a child. They're heavy. They're spiritually heavy too, because this child starts carrying a burden that doesn't belong to them. And when a child is carrying that kind of emotional load, they do not have free energy left open for trust. They have energy left for management, for scanning, for controlling the environment. So when they come to your house, what do? They test, they provoke, they withdraw, they act out, because they are discharging stress and trying to figure out, is it safe for me to be myself here? And will you make me choose? This is also why children under 12 show mistrust through behavior, not words. They can't always articulate, I'm experiencing cognitive dissonance and nervous system activation due to inconsistent emotional contingencies. They can only show you, I don't want to talk. I hate it here. You're mean. or suddenly they become extremely compliant, which can look like very good behavior, but it's actually fear-based. Let's pause on that because I want you to stop using the wrong measurement for your child. A child who is fine might not actually be fine. A child who is angry might actually be safer than you think because anger can be a sign of enough security to express. So instead of asking, do they trust me today? I want you to start asking, are they allowed to be emotionally honest in my home? Do they have to perform in my home? Do they get to be a kid in my home? That's the foundation. Let's pause again because I want to give you a map. In my work, I've seen children go down one of three paths. And this matters because when you can name the path that your child is on, you stop guessing and you stop taking it personally. Path A is the internalizing path. This is the child who takes the harm and the pressure and turns it inwards. So you might see anxiety. You might see sadness. You might see people pleasing. You might see them shut down after exchanges. And with the safe parent, they can look distant, not because they don't love you, but because their nervous system is overloaded. Path B is the ally or the alienated path. This is the one that scares safe parents the most. This is where the child starts rejecting the safe parent and becomes emotionally close to the unsafe parent. They might repeat adult phrases. They might act like you're the enemy. They might suddenly side with the other parent. And I want to say this carefully. This isn't proof that you've lost your child. It's often proof that your child is under loyalty pressure and trying to survive it. And then path C is the resilient child path. This is what we're working towards. It's where your child can sense manipulation for what it is without having to call out the toxic parent and still stay emotionally true to their inner self. They can love both parents without losing themselves. They can feel their feelings without being recruited into adult agendas. And here's the hope. Kids can move between these paths. They are not stuck. When the safe parent changes the emotional environment, less pressure, more regulation, more predictability, children very often start shifting towards resilience. So as I'm describing those paths, which one feels the most like your child right now? And here's why that question matters. Because once you know the path, you can interpret what you're seeing with so much more accuracy. For example, if your child is on path A, you'll see them more shut down and I don't knows. If your child is drifting towards path B, you're more likely to hear something else. Adult language, adult accusations, statements that sound like legal arguments. And I know some of you are experiencing exactly that. Your child comes home and they say something that just doesn't sound like them. That doesn't automatically mean that your child is turning on you. It often means your child is carrying a script. It's a survival strategy under pressure. So let's make this real. A child walks in and says, "This isn't my real home. The other home is my real home, and I just visit here." Oof. Even saying that out loud, you can feel what it does to a safe parent's chest because your instinct is to defend, to correct, to say, "That's not true. This is your home too. Look at your room. Look at everything that I do for you." But the moment you debate it, your child's nervous system learns, this topic creates intensity for me. And intensity is the exact thing that trains them to shut down, perform, or escalate. So here's the safer response. If your child is 3 to 6 years old, you might say something like, "Okay, love, you're home with me right now. You don't have to figure any of this out. Let's go get settled in." And then you move your body into action. You snack, shoes off, a cozy routine, because little kids regulate through rhythm more than through words. If your child is 10 to 12, you might say, "I hear you. That sounds like a big feeling. You don't have to choose a real home for me. My job is to take care of you when you are here." And then you stop. You let it land. Because what you're communicating is, I'm not threatened by your feelings. I'm not going to recruit you. I'm not going to make you manage me and my emotions. That is how you respond to a script without making your child responsible for your pain. Because you cannot out-logic a loyalty bind. You can only out-safety it. Now let's go into step 3, the common mistake that safe parents make that accidentally reinforces the mistrust. Now I'm going to say this with so much compassion because I see safe parents do this every day and it comes from love, but it backfires. Mistake number 1 is the interrogation. And I don't mean that you're doing an interrogation like a bad person. I mean that your nervous system is panicking. So your mouth starts gathering data. How was it? What did you do? Who was there? Did they say anything about me? Did anything happen? And your child's body hears one message. Uh-oh, I'm back in that role. I'm the reporter. I'm the one who has to manage this. And if your child has already been under pressure in the other home, they're not coming to your home ready for more pressure. Even if your questions are gentle, even if your tone is sweet, even if you're trying to protect them, it still feels like pressure. Mistake number 2 is emotional urgency. This is the one that breaks safe parents' heart the most because it's so human. Your child says, Dad says you're crazy, and then you go into overdrive. Okay, listen, that's not true. Let me explain. Here's what actually happened. Your dad is so on and so forth. And I know why you do it, because you want your child to know reality. You want them to know you. You want to protect your relationship. But what your child experiences is, now I'm in the middle. Now I have to sort the truth. Now I have to pick. And a child under 12 cannot carry that without a cost. Mistake number 3 is trying to clear things up too soon. Safe parents will say, we need to talk about what happened over there. And the child shuts down, not because they're defiant, but because their body is saying, danger. If I talk, someone gets hurt. Mistake number 4 is making the child responsible for the truth. This is subtle. It sounds like, just be honest with me. Promise you'll tell me if something happens. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Even if you mean well, it adds weight. Your child is already overwhelmed. The real goal is not to get the information. The goal is to restore safety. Because when safety is restored, information comes naturally over time. Let me give you an example. A parent I worked with was devastated because their child would come home and refuse hugs, refuse eye contact, and say things like, I don't like you. And the parent kept trying to fix it with closeness. Come here, talk to me, tell me what's wrong, I miss you. And the child would get more rigid. So we changed one thing. The parent stopped chasing the emotional moment. They started anchoring the environment. Snacks, same decompression routine, same calm voice, same phrase, we don't have to talk right now. And slowly the child started coming closer on their own. First, they sat on the same couch. Then they started sharing a tiny detail about their day. Then, weeks later, they said something that mattered, not because the parent extracted it, but because the child felt safe enough to offer it. That's how this works. So if you catch yourself peppering your little one with questions, you might say, hey, love, I asked a lot just now. I'm sorry. You don't have to answer any of that. You're safe. You can just be a kid. And if you realize that you got reactive with an older kid, you might say something like, hey, I want to redo that. I got intense because I care, but you're not responsible for managing my feelings. Or this situation, I'm here when you want to talk and I'm okay if you don't. That phrase, I'm okay even if you don't, is powerful because it removes the child's job of taking care of you. And I want to be honest with you. Saying that and actually meaning it takes work. So here's what I remind myself and my clients. Adults take care of adults' feelings, and we get support from other adults. Kids shouldn't have to take care of adults' emotions. Our job is to support our child with their big feelings, not make them responsible for us. So what actually does rebuild trust? Not the perfect explanation, not the perfect evidence, not winning the narrative. Trust is rebuilt through repeated experiences of emotional safety. And I want to give you a simple framework that you can remember. Predictability, regulation, permission. Predictability means that your child knows what to expect in your home. Not perfection. Predictability, a rhythm, a landing pad, especially after exchanges. So I want you to imagine the first hour after your child comes back as decompression time. Not catch-up time, not processing time, decompression time. Same routine, same options, low demand. Snack, shower, play, quiet show, outside walk, whatever fits with your family. And during decompression, you're watching one thing. Is my child's body coming back online? Because your child's trust is often built through the body first, then the mind, then the story. Regulation means you lead with your nervous system. I'm going to be very direct. You can be right and still be emotionally unsafe in the moment. And I know a lot of you are thinking, but Dr. Naaila, I stay calm. I keep my voice sweet. I don't yell. And I believe you. Most safe parents are excellent at faking it. But here's the problem. Kids don't just listen to your words. They feel your state. So even if your tone is gentle, if your body is tight, if your jaw is clenched, if your nervous system is bracing, if your energy is intense, guarded, or scanning, your child's body will read that as something is not safe here, even if you're saying all of the right things. So the goal isn't just to act calm. The goal is regulate first. So calm is real. Because when your calm is real, your child's nervous system can finally borrow it. So what do? Before the exchange, you regulate. Before they walk in, you regulate. In the bathroom if you have to, in the car if you have to. 2 deep breaths, feet on the floor, name 5 things that you can see. Remind yourself, my job is safety, not answers. Because when you're regulated, you become the antidote to the chaos. So we've talked about predictability and regulation. Now let's talk about permission. Permission matters so much. It means your child is allowed to love both parents in your presence. Now, I know that can be hard because if you're the safe parent, you might be carrying rage, grief, and disbelief about what the other parent is doing. And you might think, if I allow them to talk positively about the other parent, am I enabling the manipulation? No, you're freeing your child. You're telling their nervous system you don't have to split yourself in half here. And that actually strengthens discernment over time because a child who feels safe doesn't need denial to survive. They can see more clearly. So, what can permission sound like? And notice what you're doing here. You're not endorsing the other parent's behavior. You're validating your child's experiences and letting them know that it's okay with you if they have a good time, because that's what removes the loyalty bind from your home. So for 3 to 6-year-olds, it might look like, oh, you had fun at dad's. I'm glad that you got to have fun. For a 10 to 12-year-old, it might sounds like you and mom did a lot. Thanks for telling me. Neutral, steady, not performative. This is how you remove the loyalty bind from your home. And over time, your child learns, I don't have to manage my parent here. And when you're doing that day after day, creating a home where they don't have to perform, something deeper comes up for a lot of safe parents. Because a lot of you will say to me, why does my child have to have such a difficult parent? And I get it. It's painful to watch a child endure the behaviors of a narcissistic parent. It's painful to watch them get emotionally pulled in, confused, pressured, and then come home carrying all of it. And yes, sometimes the thought that comes up is, this is so unfair. So here's the lens that I hold, and you can take what fits and leave what doesn't. Alongside the child development lens of this, I also carry a spiritual mindset rooted in radical acceptance. I believe that when we come into this world, whether you believe it's God, the universe, or a higher power, we come with a specific set of challenges and lessons that are part of our path. For some people, you might call it karma. For others, it's simply the curriculum of this lifetime. And when I look at a child who is born with a narcissistic or toxic parent, I don't see a child who's doomed. I see a child who has a very specific set of lessons to learn, skills to build, discernment to develop, so that they can stay emotionally true to themselves in the presence of manipulation. And I know that can be a hard thing to hold because it doesn't erase the grief, but it does shift the question from, why is this happening to my child? To, what is my child here to learn? And how can I be the safe, steady guide that helps them build those tools? Because here's the thing. If a child doesn't develop the skills to recognize toxic dynamics and stay anchored in their inner world, they often continue to encounter those dynamics later in life, in friendships, in relationships, in the workplace. It's like life keeps presenting the same test in different forms until the lesson is integrated. So when I work with safe parents, I don't just see you protecting your child from the moment. I see you as helping your child build a lifelong internal compass, not by calling out the toxic parent, not by forcing your child to see it, but by creating an environment where your child can strengthen discernment, self-trust, and emotional resilience, developmentally, gently, and over time. And that's part of why the work starts with you staying grounded, because your groundedness becomes the bridge between the pain of what is and the growth that's possible. And if you want a step-by-step process for this, strategic tools plus energy-based practices, that's what I teach inside my program. So you and your child can move towards resilience without escalating the conflict. But for right now, here's a simple trust-building script that you can use tonight. Try this after an exchange. any age, just adjust the tone for yourself. You're home. You're safe. You don't have to explain anything. We'll take the night one step at a time. I'm here. And then prove it with your behavior. Soft eyes, low demand, consistency. And if your child throws a grenade, perhaps they say something like, Mom or Dad says you're a liar. Here's the response that protects your child's nervous system. I hear you. That's a big thing to carry. You don't have to solve that. I'm your parent and I can handle the grown-up stuff. Now, notice what we don't do here. We don't argue. We don't interrogate. We don't recruit our child. We keep them out of the middle. We reduce the load. And that, over time, is how trust rebuilds. If you're watching your child change and you've been quietly panicking, if you've been thinking, what if I'm losing them? I want you to take a breath and remember this. Your child's guardedness is not the end of your relationship. It's information. It's their nervous system telling you what kind of pressure that they are living under. And you can become the place where the pressure finally stops. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. And you need a plan. So you're not reinventing the wheel every exchange, every weekend, every holiday. If you want a step-by-step process for this dynamic, tools, scripts, and practices to help you stay grounded and rebuild your bond, book a strategy session. We'll map what your child is showing you, identify the patterns that you're dealing with from the emotionally unsafe parent, and get clear on what you've been trying and why it hasn't been working. So you can decide what kind of support will actually protect your child moving forward. You do not have to do this alone. And you are not crazy for feeling like this is that serious, because for your child's nervous system, it is.